Hi everyone, Jen here with you today for Country Craft Creations. And I recently made a few cards using the new Prima Frank Garcia's Candy Cane Lane. And one of them was this fun little tunnel card that I made. And I've had quite a few people ask me about a tutorial for this. And I didn't really want to do a tutorial because it's not technically my design. So over the years, I've found several different tunnel card tutorials on YouTube and Pinterest, and I've just kind of used them from different people to kind of create one that I really liked and the way that I liked it. So I'm not quite sure whose original design the tunnel card was. However, some people do it with specific die sets. There's some out there that you can do it with that are made for this. I just use nesting dies. And then for the Prima one that I made here, I used ephemera. So if you're using a collection that has ephemera offered, these little ephemera pieces are great for putting the dimensional pieces in your tunnels. Now, the one I'm going to make today, to show you how I make these, I'm going to use the Country Craft Creations exclusive Always Happy paper to make a sunflower one. And for that, I have chosen... Now, you can use any nesting dies as long as they're sized properly, and you can get 3 to 4 sizes for your pages. Because of the honeycombs in this paper, I'm going to use these hexagon dies. So I will decide what size I need here in a moment. If you're not familiar with nesting dies, they're usually a set of 4, 5, or 6 dies, sometimes even more. And they're just the same shape, and they go from a large one all the way down to the smallest. And that makes it so you can layer things on your pages. Most of us are familiar with them, but if you're not, that is what a nesting die is. So this collection does not have ephemera offered like this. There are ephemera pieces in here that you can cut out. I have opted to use fussy cuts from this collection. So I have some of the sunflowers, some of the bees, and one of the little beehives here, and I will show you how that is done in just a moment. So I'm going to set all of my die cuts aside and my papers, and I will show you. So this one, the base is going to be using Kraft, and for that, you have to have a sheet that is 5.5 inches wide by 11 inches tall, okay? And that's the base. So you want to make sure that this is a perfect 5.5 by 11. And we're just going to place this on a scoreboard. And we are going to score that right at 5.5. And that's going to make our card base. Okay. And for this, we want to fold in and away from the score line. We want that little ridge in there when we're done. So what I like to do is take it and flip it and then score it at that 5.5 mark again, just to make sure everything is lining up. And that's going to give us this nice little ridge. Make sure you line up your paper and burnish it down nicely. And that'll give you a 5.5 by 5.5 piece of paper. This will be the card size, okay? And then we want to open it on the side that has that ridge. So you see the ridge. So we scored on this side originally, and here this kind of sticks up. That's what you're going to want to use. Okay, so now what you need is 4 sheets of your pattern cardstock. These will be your tunnels, so keep that in mind when you're deciding. These are all going to be 4.25 by 5.5. And a little tip, make sure to line these all up and make sure they are all exactly 4.25 by 5.5, at the 4.25 especially. If not, you're going to want to put them in your trimmer and trim them down just a little bit, because if they're not all lined up, when you do the tabs, they will not work. As you can see inside of here, this is a tab system, okay? So then we'll have a piece that goes in the front here and then the back, and this back piece here is what's going to hold our other side. All right, so this is another 4.25 by 5.5, and then you have a 3.5 by 5.5. Yes, okay. So let's get on to these portions. So we have our 4 sheets, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. All of these need to be scored at 1/2 inch on both sides. Okay. 1/2 inch on both sides of the paper. And that would be, if you're putting it down, that would be your 1/2 inch mark, and then your 3 3/4 mark is going to give you a 1/2 inch on both sides. Okay, so that's what you have. Now, when you put these down, once you've decided where you want your papers to line up, this is where you're going to decide on your dies. So you need to have, for this one, you can do this with 3 pages if you want to. I'm going to do this one with 4. So I have a set of 7 nesting dies here. We already know this big one is not going to work because you need to make sure it fits on either side of that and leave you a little bit of space with your 1/2 inch score lines. Okay. So I'm thinking that this is probably the biggest one I can use. And even that one is a little, oh no, we do it this way. So this one should work. And that tells me that I need to use these 3, okay? Yeah, I like this one better. So we will position this on our page. This will be our first one. And you will need a, some sort of cutting machine. I have a Sizzix Big Shot off to the side here. And I will show you. So we have our little hexagon down right around the middle of the page. This is our first one. And I'm just going to put it on there. The next ones we will need to tape to get a better idea of where our dies are going to line up. But for this one, you just want to have a little bit of space next to each one of those score lines on either side. And I do. Go ahead and I am going to run this through my machine here off to the side. And I will show you what we get at the end here. So that's going to give me my first tunnel, as you can see. Okay. And you can keep these pieces. I wouldn't suggest throwing them away because you can use them for the front of the card or other things. So our next one is this green paper. Line it up with your first cut with the hole, okay? And then you want to put down your second tunnel. Line it up nicely on there once I get my paper straight. Okay, and there's probably easier ways to do this. This is just what works for me. I am going to grab a little bit of washi that I have off to the side that I know will come off without ripping my paper. And double check that these are nicely lined up. And then I am going to put washi down. And remove this. And that will be your next one. See, it's in the middle. Okay. So I'm going to put that over here on my Xyron. Or excuse me, my Big Shot. I don't know why I said Xyron. And I like to run mine through forward and back on these just to make sure that I get a good cut. And take that off. Again, save your little pieces that you cut out, their shapes. And we will place this on the next one, just like we did the first. I'm going to just line this up in my scoreboard here. And then I have my next die. I'm going to put that right in the center of that piece. And once I have it centered, put that tape back down. Take my green paper off. And run this through. Probably can't see my whole machine over here, but you can see part of it. tape off of there. Set that aside. And then our last one will be this one. Just line it up like we did the others. Use your scoreboard like I do. If that helps me, it might help you as well. Just to get everything nicely lined up. We're going to put that last little tunnel die on there, and I am going to tape it. And remove this piece, and we will cut our last one. Run this through. Oh, sorry for that. Some truck just flew past my house. That was loud. All right, and that is all you will need from the die cut machine. So I'm going to pull my machine out of my way here. And then we will move along. So now you have your scoreboard out. Now you can place these and you will see just how neat this looks. See how they're all layered? And then when we put this together, we will put different things inside of it, okay? So let's go ahead and burnish down our 1/2-inch score lines nicely on both sides of your tunnels. And the first one with the largest die, if you're using a die as big as the one I used, you really want to burnish this line. And the reason I say that is because with very little space on either side, it can be a problem when you open the card. I actually had an issue with that Christmas one that had that problem. I didn't have enough paper for that size of a die. And I don't want to see you guys have that same issue. So you just want to get these all nice and burnished on that 1/2-inch score line. And then we'll be doing the fun part, the decorating. Basically just wanted to make this one to show you the mechanism and how to do it, because I've had a few people that wanted to know how to make them. And it's just easy if I just do a quick video for you and show you. Like I said, this is not solely my design. I have changed some things here and there, but I've watched several people's tutorials on how to make these. So now we're going to pull in our base. Okay, then we want to make sure we're on that side with that ridge right there. Remember that you want the side with the ridge. Stack these up, and now that you see them stacked, you'll see. Now you can ink the edges of this. I'm going to opt to ink the inside edges of mine with Vintage Photo Distress ink, because it goes nicely with this paper collection. So I'm going to do that really quick. Just ink these edges in here, because this one will have a little bit more of a vintage vibe than the Christmas one I made. And I have someone in mind to give this card to as well. So this was a good collection to do this tutorial for you. I'm going to go ahead and just go in here and ink all of the edges inside here. And I just stuck my hand in ink. Wonderful. You could ink as little as or as much as you want, and you don't have to ink at all if you don't want to. Now we will be cutting one more piece of paper. Usually I just use one of the cutouts from the die, which is what I did with the Christmas one. Get this ink off of my hand really quick. Okay. So you're going to want to start with your smallest one, the very back one, okay? And we are going to put score tape on these. I don't want full 1/2 inch. I don't want to cover the whole thing because I run into it sticking. So what I like to do is just take my score tape this is 3/8, and I run it right down the middle of that tab, which leaves about 1/8 of an inch on either side. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to put that on all of these. Make sure that you're going to need it on both sides. And you can do that all at once, or you can do it at the end, however you want. I'm just going to do this left side, which is what opens in the front, to start so that I can show you how to adhere these. This one goes this way. And if you're using paper like I am that has writing, just make sure that it's all facing the right direction. Not that I haven't done that before. I think we all have done that at some point in our crafting life. Put paper on upside down. I've done it more than once, I'm sure. All right, so what you're going to do is we're going to take this piece first, which, like I said, is your smallest tunnel. Okay, so this would be number 4 if you're counting from front to back. And we are going to grab a little pokey tool here. I'm going to pull off my score tape. And I want to line this up with, you know, I'm going to edge this out a little bit here around the edges. Now that I kind of liked that inked edge, but I want it all the way around. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll do the other ones before I put the tape down. That looks better. Okay. So as you can see, you want to line this up with that right side of that ridge. And I will show you. Leave a little bit of space so it can fold, but as you can see, we're not on this side of the score line, we're on this side. Okay? That's very, very important. Make sure it's nice and straight. Put it up to your scoreboard if you have to, at the top. Just to line yourself up. And then you just want to close the card. Like so. Burnish that tape down. When you open it, as you see, there's our first tunnel. Okay? And we will continue. Go ahead and burnish that down nicely. Okay, so now you want to take your next size up, and we've got our score tape on there, and I am just going to place that. I'm going to put this on my scoreboard like so I can see the top of this, and then I'm actually going to pull it over. That way I know I go all the way over the edge. You just want to go right above that last one. Don't let them overlap, but go right above it, okay? And you'll have something like so. And we want to do that with the other 2 as well. I'm going to go ahead and show you while I do it. Peel off your tape. You just want to make sure, the most important thing with this project is that these line up. Okay, you want to just make sure that you're lining up and not overlapping any of these 1/2 inch flaps, because they won't open if you do. Okay. Go ahead and peel off the tape of my last one. It's our largest. And I like to use my scoreboard for this because I can make sure that I'm lining that right up against the side. And it gives me a nice. Now, if you want to see how it's going to look before adding score tape or anything to these, just let them all buckle up. Close your card, and you will see this is what you will have. See? And then before adding, you can add your score tape, which I'm going to go ahead and do to my sides. This is your right side flap. Go ahead and add some score tape to those. And actually, I only do the last one lengthwise because we're going to glue down the rest of it. I'm trying to find my tear tool. Here we go. I just want this on this last one. You can do it either way. just keep in mind when you put this down, this piece of paper that we're going to score that goes back here, that is what is going to hold this side. Okay, so I have this piece and we want to score this at 2. Okay, and then we're going to burnish that down so that it's nice. And this is going to go right here, and it's going to hold these pieces. Okay, so what I want to do to make this a little bit tighter is I am going to go ahead and ink this first. All right. And then our 2-inch side, I'm going to run some thicker score tape, the little bit wider stuff, and I'm going to do it this way. And this is just going to make, it just makes it so that those move a little bit easier. You can do it either way. Oh, I tore one off to almost the right size on that one. You could also use a score tape sheet if you wanted to at this step. I don't want that much score tape. I just want enough. I'm kind of going crooked here. I just want enough on here to adhere my pieces. And you want to make sure that these don't go off the edge because it'll stick to your little flaps. I go ahead and burnish all that tape down. Okay, and I'm going to set this aside. So this is where you want to do your decorating. And you can do this with tweezers and leave that open if you want. I find it easier to just kind of eyeball it, opening it like so. And then I grab my pieces and decide where I want to put them. And for this one, like I said, we're using fussy cuts. So I'm going to take this piece that I cut, this original one, and I'm going to slide this in here as far as it'll go. Just go right up against there. And as you can see, that's going to give us that little window in the back. So I'm going to go ahead and glue that down. And I actually kind of like the back side of this, so I'm going to do it on the back side. I like all those bees. You can just use a scrap of paper back here as long as you can see it through that last window. That's all that is going to matter. We're just going to take this right up to that edge. Glue that down and make sure. See, I can see all that fun stuff in the background back there. All right, so I'm going to take some of my bees. And I am going to put them, this is a good one, and we will do a flower, go a little bit smaller with the flower there. And you just put your pieces on the different levels where you want them. As you can see, as I'm layering, I'm going to take another little bee and I'm going to put it on there. Or actually, you know what, I think I'm going to put this little bee. Just play with it. I'm going to actually finish decorating mine after I show you how to do the other portion, these two sides. But see, you can add as much or as little as you want in here. I had that fun little beehive, so I'm going to put that down in here. And you can use tweezers, you can use a tool, any kind of a tool that you can move around before you glue it so you can see where things are going to go is highly suggested. Go ahead and have another sunflower sticking out here. And I'm going to do one more bee down here on this flower. Pull this flower out just a bit. And then we have our little... And I will do that later. So you can see, you can lay these flat once you figure out where they go and put your pieces. Anything you put in there, it's going to line up. And then we will add the back flap. So I'm going to go ahead and decorate mine really quick, and I will be right back. Okay, so now I've gone ahead and I've put all of my fussy cuts on mine, and I would suggest to you also, when you do these, go through and just make sure they're glued down nicely, if you have to put your tip right underneath there, and burnish from the back side so that you don't take a chance of the glue getting on the next one. If you burnish from this side, it might get through and get onto the card. You don't want it to get all sticky. So now I have all those down and I have all my embellishments. I'm just going to fold back this first 1/2 inch flap, okay? And I'm going to line it up on my scoreboard. Let me put this in camera a little better. And this is our piece that we put the edging on. I'm going to peel my score tape off of this. You can also use glue if you feel safe doing that. And I will be lining these up and showing you. So like someone asked me the question if it was hard to make these. I wouldn't say it's hard. It's just time consuming. You need to make sure that your stuff all lines up and doesn't overlap, or it won't open and close. I'm going to go ahead and peel that first one off. And then I just like to pull them all apart to make sure that these flaps are all in line with each other. Of course, my fingers are going to stick to it. And this is our 2-inch side, which is what we want. I'm going to line this up this way on my scoreboard. And I want to put this piece right at the beginning of that 2 inches. I'll just pull up this first one is what I'm going to do. And then I'm going to line it up with my piece of paper here. I'm going to close. So I'm just going to close these ones. And I'm going to put this on my scoreboard like so. And I'm going to take our piece, make sure that you have the 2-inch side, because the other side is going to go over here. And I just want to put that right up against that score line and up to the top. Making sure I line it up all the way down. And I have that, okay. And then I'm going to open it up. I'm going to turn these ones this way. And then I am just going to burnish that down onto the tape. And then you have so. And now you have your tunnel card. And you just need to glue this flap down to here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to use glue for this. And you want to line that up perfectly. Again, make sure everything lines up before you burnish, because you want this to close and open with ease. And there we go. Just going to burnish that nicely down. And that is your tunnel card. Then you just take another piece. Again, this measures 3.5 by 5.5, and that will be your piece that will slide right here. And we will add that piece. And you might want to cut a little bit off. I think I might have got this a little bit too big, but this is what our end result will be. And then you decorate the front and the back if you choose to. You can add ribbon to close it if you would like. But other than that, that's how you make a tunnel card. I hope you've enjoyed this. Happy paper crafting.